How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. We are reacting to Xbox Wants to Buy Steam by DreamcastGuy. You've all wanted it. I've given it a day or so to actually, mature like I always do. And here it is. You will see that my face isn't there. That is because my light hasn't arrived yet and it looked pretty bad when I rewatched it. So for now, it's just going to be the thumbnail of my logo until it all arrives and we can get going. Hopefully by the end of May I'll actually have some decent internet with like almost 100 meg up download and 20 meg upload, so that should fix everything and we should be back to normal, at least for the time being. But let's see what he has to say, let's see what he's talking about, and off we go.
Microsoft wants to buy Steam and roll it into Xbox to make the brand of Xbox gaming even more massive. And basically, this leak, this rumor, already has the entire internet completely freaking out, because it does feel like if this happens, if Microsoft just completely absorbs Steam, I think gaming is going to go down a dark path. I think the industry as we know it...
I don't really see why it's going to go down a dark path. At the end of the day, if Microsoft acquires Steam, which I don't think they will, I think what they are going to do is buy a big enough stake from the private shareholders, because it is a private limited company. They're going to try to buy some shares around maybe 27 to 30%, and then I think they're going to go into a partnership with Gabe. That makes a lot more sense. That way Gabe has a majority, he's got 24% shares, so he still has a key vote in what happens, and I think that will, for optics at the very least, will look better. But what it will signify is Microsoft kind of becoming an even bigger publisher and just having revenue coming in from all directions at this point. Whether it's Game Pass, it's Steam, no matter where it is, they're getting that 30% revenue from Steam, they're getting that 100% revenue or 30% revenue from the actual their own store. So it's going to be interesting to see if this actually pans out. I don't think the regulators will push it through, because it's just, especially on the back of ABK, I don't see that happening. But I do see the fact that a partnership could actually work. Obviously, he's going to doom and gloom because, Xbox bad, right?
may actually fall apart. But let's discuss. Hi, I hope you're having a great day. If you could, give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, the origin of this is a very peculiar spot. So this gentleman named Dwar is a dude who looks into different financial stuff and video game law stuff, and he just put this randomly on Twitter 3 hours ago, where he said, essentially, Microsoft is ready to offer $16 billion for Valve. This will not be stock, it will be all cash. Now, pretty much immediately, and we're going to go through a bunch of it, people are saying that this is the worst thing ever. I mean, some Xbox fanboys are going to go, okay, explain why this is bad. Well, of course, I have to point out the fact that Microsoft does have a personally awful habit of purchasing companies, mismanaging, and then closing them down. So,
well, first of all, Valve isn't a games company. Valve is, I guess, a hardware company, which is something Microsoft does dabble in with their Surface stuff, the console. They might not be the best, but then again, the Steam console wasn't the best either, and the Steam Deck is doing well, but it was the first of its kind that kind of went mainstream with the handheld devices. The other ones didn't really hit mainstream until Valve took it to the next level, but ultimately they're buying it for Steam, the actual store. They're not gonna make Steam as a store disappear when it brings in a shed load of money. That just makes no sense. You don't even have to do anything with that company for it to print money. So it's not the same thing. I think he's reaching here real far.
yeah, I'm not immediately happy about the idea of this. Now, some people are immediately pushing back and saying, okay, this probably isn't true. It's completely made up. The figure doesn't make any sense. We're going to break down the leak and its logic, but just on the surface level, it is at least partially tangentially true that Microsoft, there were all these leaked documents last year that Microsoft themselves accidentally posted during the Activision Blizzard Microsoft hearings that were happening with the American government. They accidentally leaked a bunch of their own stuff, their own plans, their own emails, and one of them was the fact that Phil Spencer said that he was going to attempt to buy Nintendo, but obviously Nintendo laughed him out of the room. But the other one is that they wanted to buy Valve. Now, at the time, 8 months ago when they made this offer, they asked $8 billion. Now, obviously, Steam is massive. $8 billion is a laughably tiny amount. I mean, think about it. They paid...
Again, that is factually incorrect. It was actually Bloomberg, Jason Schreier, said that Valve was valued at around $8 billion. Microsoft hasn't actually put an offer through. Now, the leaked document showed how much Microsoft actually valued Valve, and it was at $17 billion. Now, why they're offering 16 now, or whatever that information is unknown, or a fiction, whatever it is. As for Nintendo and the Valve information, this was from 2020 as well, that the emails is talking about, not from 2023. So that is factually incorrect too. So far, I don't think up until this point, we're 2 minutes and 35 minutes into the video, he hasn't said a single thing that is factually correct. Let's continue.
$7 billion just for Bethesda. So the idea of this rumor...
And he is still comparing buying studios to buying a storefront. They are two different entities. They are two different beasts, two different things altogether. You cannot compare the price of a video game publisher to a storefront. You just cannot do that. Now, I know people are going to say Valve does make games too. They made Half-Life Alyx, and the previous game they made before that was what? Half-Life 2? Portal 2? It's not like they're churning out a game every year or every 2 years. Maybe one every 2-3 decades at this point. So let's be realistic. They're not a games developer. They do dabble in hardware, like I said at the start, but ultimately they have become a pretty much bona fide storefront. And a storefront is totally different to a publisher. And the fact that he's again trying to compare the two just to get a comparison is again just stupid.
Immediately, people are pissed because Microsoft is not exactly a company that anybody trusts. While they are good at doing stuff like making Windows and Microsoft Word and, sort of keeping their trillions of dollar dragon's hoard of cash profitable, Microsoft does not understand video games. And I feel like their track record speaks for itself. But I wanted to take a look at this because it sounds like the reason this rumor is so prolific, the reason, even if this turns out to be an inaccurate number, we do know that Microsoft did in the past, very recently, attempt to buy Valve, and I would not be shocked if they tried it again.
Very recently, being 2020, when those emails went out, there was no actual offer in 2023, like it's insinuating. Again, so far, everything he's saying is just wrong. I don't understand what he's saying in this video at all.
Because right now, Valve is finally releasing a new game. So if you haven't looked at it, I don't want to post the gameplay in this video because I will definitely get in legal trouble, but there's a new game coming out soon that's kind of like a mix of like Overwatch and Team Fortress 2, and it's called Deadlock. Valve's...
Okay, so I stand corrected. Once a decade is a game that they release. Okay, there you go. They're releasing a game. I stand corrected.
Been doing beta tests.
Still not a publisher, just a studio. Well, I guess you can say they publish. They're only one development studio, but I guess you can say they publish their own thing. But you get what I'm saying. They're not like a publisher like ZeniMax or Activision Blizzard that has multiple studios within them.
Testing for it for a while. I looked at a lot of the gameplay. It does actually look incredibly freaking good. I think it's going to be a huge...
This is a guy that said Quantum Error was going to be Game of the Year, looked absolutely amazing, and was super hyped about it, and was one of the most anticipated games for him of last year. I just want to let that sink in. So when he says This looks incredibly good. No, not shitting on Valve at all, because Valve generally make great games. But when this guy says that, just remember that this guy was bigging up Quantum Error as literally Game of the Year material. I just want to put that out there.
Huge success, and typically whenever a company releases stuff, the value goes up. But here's the thing. Valve is a private company. They're not publicly traded, which means that they don't have stock, they don't have typical value, they're not like on the exchange, which means that if you want them, you have to buy it outright. You can't do a typical takeover. I'm not going to get too into the weeds of it, but there have been attempted hostile takeovers in the past where somebody at one point tried to just buy Ubisoft by eating up the shares, and Ubisoft had to fight off a bunch of just jerky billionaires from eating Ubisoft against their will. So
it's funny how he doesn't mention how Sony was doing this to Bungie, right? Trying to take over their board in a hostile takeover to gain the majority shares. It's funny how he doesn't mention that one, but it goes for Ubisoft. It's really weird that, right?
Here's the thing. Right now, well, Gabe Newell, the president, the CEO, the man behind Valve, has been slowly shrinking his own shares of the company. It sounds like, for whatever reason, it sounds like this guy explains that he gave away a lot of money in a divorce, stuff like that. But here it is. He now owns close to 25% of the company, which means that he can technically be for whatever reason. It sounds like this guy explains that he gave away a lot of money in a divorce, stuff like that. But here it is. He now owns close to 25% of the company, which means that he can technically be outvoted. The other heads of Valve, the other board members, the other...
Just want to clarify that it does actually say 24%. He just had it off screen because he zoomed in and didn't realize. But he originally owned around 50% as of 10 months ago. He had a divorce, and that settlement meant that he lost a big chunk of those shares. So he has roughly about 24% of those shares remaining.
Major executives could technically greenlight this. Now, is this legally possible? The other wrinkle of this is that here in America, you can just purchase pretty much anything, but you can also buy it and shut it down. This has happened in the past. We have seen times where a company just said, hey, you guys are doing good stuff. We're going to buy you. We're going to take all your best creators, and we're just going to kick everybody out the door. We're going to keep your IP, your brand, your brain drain, but everybody else is fired. Look at this. I would do anything for Gaben to be laughing at Microsoft. A lot of people are saying, like, okay, this would definitely get blocked by a monopoly. This would get stopped by the lawmakers, because there's no way this would actually be allowed. Xbox would own Microsoft Store, Blizzard Store, and Steam, even if Gaben could.
So it's okay for Sony to own all those movie stores. That's not a monopoly. It's okay for Sony to own pretty much every anime studio, publishing studio in Europe and the US. That's okay, I guess. That's not a monopoly. But the fact that Epic Games exists, Ubisoft Store exists, Origin exists, I think, GOG exists, would mean that this is a monopoly. I mean, at this point, what Microsoft would do is shut down the Blizzard Store, Blizzard.net, because no one really cares about that, integrate that into Steam, happy days. In fact, what you'll find is they will probably take all the Xbox games and Xbox Game Pass and kind of put it into Steam anyway. That makes the most logical sense. So Steam would be that one big store that has Game Pass interaction and everything. So I don't think he's got any legs to stand on here as well. I do believe that the regulators will kick up a fuss. I do believe they will try. I don't believe that this is outside the realm of possibility. And don't forget, this is the same guy that said that ABK was a categorically impossible thing to happen. It was never going to happen. The regulators 100% would oppose it. And in the end, the FTC couldn't do jack, and the CMA just wanted to basically show the rest of the world that they exist, and because of that, they got this cloud stuff into it, which basically means that, for the most part, all the CMA did was actually hurt consumers, because those that are on Xbox right now can't play games like Diablo 4 on xCloud. So all the CMA did was to be even more anti-consumer, just so they can get their way. So these organizations are just organizations. Even the regulators are out for themselves.
Could reject the deal for whatever reason, regulators would. So yeah, here's the biggest thing. I do hope that this doesn't happen for a variety of reasons. And let me talk about that. This is not me just being an Xbox hater or being...
No, this is going to be exactly that. My dude is a bona fide Xbox hater. In fact, I bet he's got a boner right now with his Xbox boning hater right now. He is a bona fide hater. There is no two ways about this. My dude didn't even get a review code for Hellblade 2 and had a review out on embargo. Tell me that isn't sus, but I'm going to cover that in my video when I actually react to his review, because now that I've actually played it, that should be a lot more interesting.
Anti-trillionaire, because, I mean, companies do different stuff. Big companies make good games, they make bad games, they do good decisions, they do bad decisions. But I think it's more about the fact that consolidation, I think, provably never works. We just keep seeing this again and again. In fact, even yesterday, I didn't have a chance to talk about this because I was working on the Hellblade video. IGN purchased Eurogamer, Game Informer, VG247, Rock Paper Shotgun, and more, and they decided to lay off a ton of people. So this is bizarre because essentially all of gaming media is now owned by one big group. Like, all the traditional journalists are almost entirely now technically IGN employees worldwide.
See, so far, has he actually said anything in this video that is factually correct? Even that point he says there is factually incorrect. They are not employed by IGN Entertainment. They are employed by Sony Interactive Entertainment, because we all know Sony Interactive Entertainment is who pays the bills. Right, folks?
Which feels illegal. Like, isn't it weird the fact that there's now independent content creators and then a bunch of websites with different brands that are all technically IGN? And here's the deal. They just had enough money to buy the competition, so they bought them, fired the people that they felt like weren't profitable enough, and then they're
And bear in mind, there's been no news of this either. The redundancies over at Gamer Network Portfolio, or all these, people that have been laid off in these journalists, publishing places, not a single word, because PlayStation, for the players.
keeping the rest. It is bizarre that this stuff could even be allowed. The fact that this might even be humored, to me, is disgusting. This would be a monopoly. There's just no way. There is no way that this would be allowed. Maybe I'm coping and seething here, but
He is totally coping and seething, because I guarantee you, if Microsoft acquire Steam, Blizzard.net is getting folded straight into Steam. Xbox Game Pass probably is going to get folded into Steam as well, and they are going to become one store. And if you sign up for a subscription service via Steam, you are going to get the Xbox games and the games that you would normally get through Xbox. But it is all going to go through Steam or go through Xbox. And that's going to be the way it goes. That's the most logical way for it to go. And then that way, all you're going to have is the Xbox store on the console, and on PC, you're just going to have Steam. So it's going to be Steam, Epic Game Store, GOG, Ubisoft, and so on. So it's not going to be like they're going to own 7 different launchers. It makes zero sense for those to exist after they acquire Steam. Now, the Microsoft Store makes sense because that actually has apps on it, actual creative apps on it that people use, if they even use those. But, they exist there. So that makes sense. But everything else, no, that doesn't hold weight for me.
I am in a spot now where not only do I not trust Microsoft, I just don't trust any of these big companies. People keep mentioning the fact that Sony laid off 900 employees early this year. That sucked. Bethesda having so many people up and fired. The closure of Tango, of Arcane. I am in a spot now where all of the gaming industry kind of terrifies me because I think we're in a spot of mild collapse. Big.
No, what you're in is a push for the biggest war chest when it comes to cloud gaming. A lot of these companies are looking to the future where, things are going to move away from consoles, they're going to be moving away from digital downloads, and they're just going to be something you stream. And whoever has the biggest digital portfolio will win. Now, what Steam will look like in 15, 20, 30 years' time is unknown. But that is what they're pushing for. That is why they're buying these publishers. That is why they're buying these studios. Because they are looking for that war chest come 15 years later when they can actually start to make, actual benefit from them. Because let's just assume everything tomorrow went to cloud. The only place you can play Activision, Blizzard, King, Xbox studio games is on xCloud. Steam won't have it. GeForce Now won't have it. No other place will have it. The only place you can play COD is on xCloud. That's a huge deal, right? That is what they're pushing for. And that is why Ubisoft and all of these companies, including Sony, are now pushing for acquisitions because they can see that that is the future that is coming. Obviously, it's a long way away, though.
Boring executives. Dudes who have never played a game are now in charge of entire franchises, of entire universes, of entire console generations and DLC price points and stuff. Dudes who do not care about video games, sitting in literal mansions with like 55 bedrooms, are deciding when we're going to get the next Final Fantasy, or how many DLC expansion season pass things are coming to.
Why didn't he say any of this when Jim Ryan was in charge, who basically didn't care about video games at all? And it's actually been, it's public knowledge that he didn't really enjoy video games. He didn't care, but no one ever complained about him. As a businessman, Jim Ryan was actually, I guess, pretty successful. He did a lot for PlayStation. But, at the end of the day, he was just that, a business person. So where was his complaints there? Why is this like double standards now? Where's the same energy? I don't see it, because he wasn't ever complaining about Jim Ryan. He was praising Jim Ryan for being a business person with 10 mansions and 5 yachts and all of this. Now it's a problem that Jimmy's gone, and I guess he's not happy with the way Hiroki Totoki is running the show, and it's a problem when others do it but not PlayStation. Come on.
To Diablo. And to me, I think this is a sign that something is going terribly wrong. Video games used to be cheap to make. PlayStation 2, Xbox 360, a lot of those early generations, you could feel a rawness. And I think that people have kind of been craving some way to get back to that. I reviewed Hellblade 2 yesterday. I did a big video about it. And you know what? That game is photorealistic. It has the best graphics that you'll probably ever see in a video game. But it's boring. It's bland. It's basic. The game itself is like 5 hours long, and it's pretty much just like watching a movie. And I guess stuff like that is kind of what kills my hope for anything that Microsoft touches, is that anything they buy...
I've also had 100% confirmation that he's not actually got a review copy. So where he's got this stuff from, I don't know. But we'll cover that later. Let's let him just continue cooking here, because he's going to get cooked in his review. 5 hours long? I don't think, unless you're skipping every single thing and you're skipping the cutscenes and just trying to make it to the end, I don't see how you can do that. I mean, it took me with a bit of... my playthrough was about 10 hours, and that was long. I was taking it slow, on a leisurely, taking photos and stuff like that. So maybe if you took like a couple of hours off that, it still hits around 8 hours. I know some people are saying the medium is about 6, but with some side quests, 8 hours is about right. And if you look on how long it takes to beat, it's about right. 7.5 hours is what they say with, some extras added in. And for completion, you're looking about 8 hours. So
Is just going to be another thing to hopefully bump up numbers. Steam is already perfect on its own. I love the Steam Deck. I love the games they make. I love Steam as a platform. I've been gaming almost entirely on PC this year, and the idea of Microsoft swooping in and ruining the number one way to play games on PC, it's bleak.
what if they don't actually do anything? They just purchase it so they can get that 30% revenue from every single publisher out there just for more money. What if they purchase it and just leave the whole hierarchy in place as it is right now, running it? What if they purchase it and don't change anything at all? I mean, there's a lot of what ifs here. I get it. Obviously, people are going to say, well, what happened with Activision and Blizzard? You all wanted that change. None of you wanted a sexual predator to be in charge of Activision, did you? People committed suicide because they couldn't take being sexually molested while in a hotel by staff members. So let's not be stupid and retarded here. They needed to go, and the culture at Activision Blizzard needed to change. So now people are complaining that they wish Bobby Kotick was still there molesting people. You guys are sick fucks. If you are, that is. So that's different entirely. But in the case of Steam, I mean, I guess Gabe would probably just call it quits. But at the end of the day, the brains behind everything else that keeps Steam running, they could stay on and just continue on as business as usual. There's no reason to, interrupt the status quo. All of what is said is either factually incorrect or just fear mongering or just Xbox bad, Xbox hate. That's it. That's all he's done in this video, and it's been quite amusing.
Well, what do you guys think about this? Are you excited about the future of Microsoft, or have you totally given up hope on anything even 10?
I mean, I absolutely loved Hellblade 2, so I am very excited for the future of Xbox and Microsoft as a combined unit because they are the same. And obviously, we already know that Steam will probably at some point next generation, or pretty much at the start, is going to be on the Xbox console. It's just going to be. I know people are saying there's no confirmation. When it gets announced, you will see. It's going to be built. I'm calling this out now. Let's see how accurate I'm going to be. It's going to be on an NVIDIA graphics card. It's going to be on an Intel CPU. It is pretty much going to be a hybrid with the ability to switch between on the fly PC mode and Xbox mode, and it's basically going to be a locked off version of Windows that you won't be able to access, that will basically allow you to download and install games through Steam like you would do on your PC and play them. And we'll start seeing games that are going to have an Xbox specification as well. So where you've got very low, low, medium, high, very high, ultra, you're going to have Xbox in there as well. We're going to have Xbox handheld in there as well. I don't think we're going to see a Series S again. I think that handheld is going to replace the Series S, and I think that's what we're going to see. They're going to add 2 more profiles in there that will auto-select when you play the game on your Xbox or on the Xbox handheld. Otherwise, if you're playing it on your PC, those Xbox profiles will not display, and you'll just be seeing what you normally see. But that is my opinion. I think at the end of the day, I paused it at the perfect spot. I think there is, whether this deal will go through or not is completely out there. Chances are it may not. But at the end, it's not the same as a video game publisher. And if they do purchase Valve, Blizzard.net, and Game Pass as an app store will just close, and it will be integrated into Steam, and anything you've purchased on those stores will instantly be activated for you when they make that account migration to Steam. And I mean, everyone's got a Steam account anyway. They will just auto-activate. That is what I think will happen. Shouldn't be too difficult. And at that point, happy days. And as long as they keep the old guard in place, it's going to be like nothing's changed. All it means is that Microsoft's going to continue to make a shed load of money. That's it. Well, you let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that discussion, and I will see you in the next one. As always, stay safe and remain legend.